recording feature on.
Welcome, DISD, to the webinar on locating and scheduling instructional materials in SchoolNet. This is part one of a three-part series looking at the Classrooms module in SchoolNet. During this webinar, I will be presenting the content from a high level via the PowerPoint, and then I will go live on a Dallas demo site. At any time, you can pause the recording and try activities out on your own. You can restart the recording when you are ready to move on. My goals for this webinar today are for you to understand how to locate available instructional materials, how to assign these resources that you find to students, and then also introduce you to the lesson planner. I will be sure to show you at the end of the session where you can find helpful resources. We have loaded a variety of materials onto PD Planner, where you can find some quick reference cards. We have some end-user PowerPoints. You can also find help all throughout the application on every screen, anytime you see the little orange question mark, and it's screen specific. So wherever you are in the application, it will jump to that section of the help. At any time, if you're interested in knowing the hardware and software requirements, you can click in the footer of any screen where it lists system requirements. So what instructional materials are available? As of January 1st, DISD has loaded over 110 curricula, which is the curriculum map. Most of these are linked to Google Docs, so you'll want to be sure that you are logged in so that you can see all of the Google Doc curriculum maps. And then there are also some other materials that have been loaded. There are curriculum units, instructional units, lesson plans, assessments, as well as resources. Now, more instructional materials can be created and submitted for approval, but it is a school-by-school decision as to the approval process. In part two of the Classrooms webinar series, we will review how to create and submit instructional materials. So what are the different pieces within instructional materials? We use different terminology, however, most of it will be similar. We have, as I said, curriculum. We have curricular units or scope and sequence. We have instructional units. We have lesson plans, we have assessments, and we have resources. This slide is a really great slide to kind of give you an idea of how curriculum is kind of nested within SchoolNet and what the structure is. Think of it as being kind of a circle, and within that circle is everything to do with your curriculum. So when we think about curriculum, we think about, sixth grade math. Inside of the curriculum, you have curricular units. That could be your 6 weeks planning period. Inside those instructional units, those may be week-long or 10-day-long instructional units like geometry or measurement. And then inside those units, we then have lesson plans. Those can be 1 day ranging to 10 days. And then inside the lesson plans, we have what we call our resources and assessments. Now, assessments in instructional materials is not the same thing as the assessment admin module within SchoolNet. These are think about standalone materials, maybe an online, it might be a website that you have or a handout. Those will all be found in the resources and assessment area. So how do I get to these materials to support my instruction? Well, the first thing that you can do is you can actually, if the district has mapped your curriculum, you'll be able to find it right on the home page. But the fastest way to get to it is to hover over Classrooms and click in Instructional Materials. The system will automatically default to the grade and subject that you teach. But if you want to look at other subjects and other grades, you'll just have to go in these drop-downs right here and select whether what to take off or what to add. And as soon as you click the search button, anything that meets that criteria, if you put in a keyword, will appear. And at that point, you'll have the ability to save it and keep it in kind of your own private materials bank. You also have the ability to search by standards. So you can search by materials, you can search by curriculum, and you can also search by standards. You can type in a keyword for the standard, and once you click the search, you'll then get the list of all the different types of instructional materials that meet that criteria. A lot of the materials that you're going to find will be the curricular unit, instructional unit, and you can click on the actual standard itself and then click on the number and see what correlates. When you bring up any of the resources, you're going to see a menu of things that you can actually access. Depending on the type of material, you may get different available actions, as we call them. So this is an example of a lesson plan. If you are actually creating the lesson plan, then you can submit it for approval. You can also edit it. You can also copy any lesson plans that you find. View related materials is a great kind of resource, because if you have aligned a standard in the lesson plan, and if you pick a lesson plan that's aligned to standards, when you view related, you'll be able to see any other materials that correlate to that same standard. From a lesson plan, you can build an express test, which will then allow you to create an assessment within Assessment Admin using the standards that are in the lesson. You also can save a copy of it. You can create a PDF and print it. And then if you are a teacher, you will then be able to have the option to schedule that resource directly to your lesson plan. Any instructional materials that you may find, you can save those, and then they'll be found in your own My Materials bank. What you're going to find in My Materials will be a combination of any materials that you've created from scratch or that you have saved from a materials search. If you find any resources that are labeled for students, then you have the ability to assign these resources to students. So every student in DISD can log into SchoolNet. It's just a matter of whether you have the infrastructure and you have enough computers. But students could feasibly log in as themselves and see any assignments that have been assigned to their section, and I will demonstrate that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and search for materials. I'm going to get out of my PowerPoint for a minute. All right, I've lost my mouse here. And I'm going to go online, and I'm going to log in as a teacher. So once logged in as a teacher, I could quickly go to Material Search right here, or I can hover over Classrooms and select Instructional Materials. And as I mentioned in the PowerPoint, my search is going to automatically default to the subjects and the grade ranges I teach. So if I click on this drop-down, I can see I teach math and science, and I teach it for 7th and 8th grade. And those will be selected here. So if I wanted to, I could type in a keyword, or I could just do an open search. Now be aware, I am on my training site, so the materials that show are going to be a lot less than what you're going to see. So as you can see here, I have all the materials that are available to me. that meet that criteria of the math and the science 7th and 8th grade. And then I can see over on the left side the different material types that are available. So if I wanted to just look at what instructional units are available, I can click on instructional units. I can see what the intended audience is, and then I can see the different material banks. What this means is if someone has created materials and shared it with just my school, it would show up here. I can deselect this, and it will refresh and show me that I have, 220 different materials, and I do have resources for students. So let's just look at one of these instructional units right here. I can click on it, and you can then get additional detail about that. So remember, as I mentioned, you're going to have some actions here to the right. And you'll be able to save it if I want to use it. Again, I can copy it. View related. In this instance, there is no standard aligned to it, so I won't be able to see any additional materials. I can create a PDF, or I can schedule it. Now, if I click right on my Algebra 1 curriculum map, it'll bring up that curriculum map that's available to me. So as I mentioned, many of the curriculum maps you're going to find are directed to the Google Docs. So I can go back, and if this is something that I want to keep for future reference, I can go ahead and click Save, and then you'll see that that save is changed to Remove. So I'm going to go back to my previous page. Here are all my search features. I have a little red heart that tells me I've already saved it. So let's get a little bit more kind of fine-tuned into items. So I'm going to now search for an actual keyword, and I'm going to type in geometry, and I'm going to press search. And it says that I don't have any results, which probably means that I need to change my grade ranges. So if I say select all, let's see what happens. Now that will not happen on your actual site. Now I have more information to access. So from here, I can select save, or I can click on the link itself. So I'm going to go ahead and select save from here, and then show you where these materials have shown up. Now, if I hover over Classroom again, I can click on Instructional Materials, or I can go straight to my own materials right from here. Now, as you can see, I have saved the 2 instructional units, and then I also have a resource that I created on my own that's in my materials bank. Now, at this time, I'm going to allow you to pause the recording. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint, and what you can do is actually search for materials, and you can search for any instructional unit or anything that you find, and when you're ready to restart the recording, just click pause and restart. When you restart, I'm going to show you how to search for actual standards and curriculum. So hopefully you've had a chance just to search for materials. Now I'm going to show you how to search by standard and how to search for curriculum. So I'm going to go back to my Classroom's instructional materials, and from here I have the ability to change my materials to be my standards. I'm going to clear out anything that I may have typed in here. Now remember, again, I'm a math teacher, math and science teacher. I have multiple subjects selected and multiple grades selected. I can type in a keyword for a standard, or I can just do an open search. Now what you're going to see is if I want to just look and see what the standards are for, let's say, just math, I can go ahead and uncheck any of these other resources or other subjects that I have labeled. So as I can see from this, again, this is my demo site, when I look at Math 7.1 right here, it tells me I do have some resources. So I can click on the actual standard itself, and what I'm going to see is the breakdown of materials that correlate to each standard or subskill here. So if I actually click on this standard, it's going to show me which material is going to match that particular standard. And if I want to, I can go ahead and save it straight from the standard here, straight from the resource here. You can go ahead and X that out. And maybe I want to search again and find some other resources. Now I want to search by curriculum. So if I change my standards drop-down to curriculum and choose search, I can see all the different curriculum that will be in the system. So again, if I teach math, I can choose just math and say OK. And again, it's default. But if I want to reset these and view all, I can just select the drop-down and change all of my settings here. So if I teach geometry, or let's say grade 7 math, I can click on it, and now I can see the link to the full curriculum, scope and sequence, any standards. So I can click on the curriculum here, or click on the scope and sequence here, and now I have the ability to see all the different, now here's the nested materials. I have instructional units. Click on this, I can click on this, and anything else that will help support my instruction. Now, curriculum is one type of material that you don't save. This is something that you'd have to actually search or have it be mapped to your curriculum, but you could create a PDF and get all of these properties associated with your curriculum that you're searching for. Now at this point, I'm going to switch back to my PowerPoint. So if you want to search by standard and curriculum, you can go ahead and pause the recording. And when you're ready to restart, just restart the recording and we'll talk about how to access resources and assign them to students. So now what I'm going to do is find a lesson plan that I want to use with my students and see if there's any resources that I can then assign to my students after I teach the lesson. So I'm going to go back to my classroom's instructional materials, and because it's my training site, I'm going to just do an open search for materials, and I'm going to just click on lesson plans here. So as you can see, I have a lesson plan using conversion tables. So when I click on the lesson plan here, I'm able to see that it's a separate Word document. It has a standard aligned to it. It has some resources attached to it. So feasibly, I could use these as handouts in the classroom. Now I can look at the additional actions up here on the right, so I can save it, which I want to do. I can copy it if I maybe want to make edits to it. I can view related. Now remember I mentioned if there is a standard in it, if I click on view related, what's going to show up is any other materials that correlate to that lesson plan. I can build an express test, and this would actually take me to the assessment admin portion, and I would create a test based on the standards that are in the lesson. And we can create a PDF or schedule it, which we'll do a little bit later. So now that I've taught the actual lesson, I want to see if there's any resources for students that I can assign to them. So I'm going to go back to previous page here. Actually, I'll just go to Classroom Instructional Material. And I'm going to search for materials. I'm going to select all just to be sure that I get any resource that is for students. And now when my search refreshes, I can see that I have 4 resources for students. So when I click on for students, I have all of these resources available to me. Now you can see that I have the ability to save or assign it. So sure, I can save it, or let's assign it to my students. So what's going to pop up is going to be a due date, and it'll be a menu. So I'm going to say I want this due next week, so I can say February 5th. I'm going to have it visible to students between, let's say, tomorrow, or I want to say today, let's say today, all the way till the end of the right at the due date. And I'm going to say, please hand in your completed assignment. And whatever is the process that you use. Now I can assign it to all the sections I teach because again I'm logged in as a teacher, or I can just say I'm going to assign it to my Math 7 functions class. So I'm going to go ahead and assign it, and at this point it's now going to show me that it's been assigned by me. And if I want to, I can go up to Classrooms and look at my assignments here, and then I see a list of all the different resources that have been assigned, or I can filter for a particular section and see which ones are assigned to that section. If I need to edit it, I can edit it, or if I want to delete it, I can delete it. Now what I'm going to do is show you what a student would see if they have an assignment. So again, students use their Active Directory logins, and they'll have access to SchoolNet. It's just a matter of the infrastructure and computers available. So I'm going to sign in as a student, and what Melanie will see is that she has an upcoming assignment. It was the one I just assigned, and I can click on Open, and she's able to see what the instructions are. She can open the document, or if it's a web link, it'll appear here, and she'll know exactly what needs to be done. So again, students can log in, and you can easily assign that any resources that are labeled for students to any section that you teach. So at this point, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint, and feel free to pause the recording, and if you want to assign resources to students, feel free to assign resources, and if, ideally your students can log in and access it. When you're ready to restart, just restart the recording. So hopefully you've had a good kind of hands-on approach with searching for materials, standards, curriculum, finding resources for students, and even possibly scheduling or assigning the resources to students. Now we're going to move into the lesson. What the lesson planner allows us to do is a couple of things. Only teachers have the ability to schedule things on their lesson planner, but everyone has a personal lesson planner, so they can schedule some personal things on a personal calendar per se. Principals have the ability to view teachers' calendars, so they'll search for a teacher's name and see what they have scheduled. So on any lesson planner that they bring up, whether it's personal or broken into their sections, they have the ability to schedule materials directly from the calendar itself. They can create materials directly from the calendar. You can schedule standards coverage. Now, when I was showing you the lesson plans and the standards, we actually have the ability to schedule it directly from that resource itself without going into the lesson planner. You can create an event. This adds such events as field trips, meetings, and things like that. You can print your PDF of your calendar materials if you like. So here's another view of what a teacher will see when he or she logs in. You have the ability to select one or all of your sections. You can view the calendar by day, by week, or by month. When you go to scheduling, it's easiest to do it by week because you have the ability in a week view to drag and drop anything that you schedule. So in this example, this teacher has 6 sections of reading. So she may feasibly teach the same thing in every section. So she or he can drag and drop and say, I'm going to be teaching Treasure Island this week for all 6 sections. So instead of just scheduling it for every 6 sections, you schedule it for one and then drag it and drop it. As I told you, principals can view anything that's scheduled on a teacher's lesson planner, and everyone has a personal calendar, and teachers will have their section views available. So let me go into the scheduling option. So I'm going to hover over Classrooms, and I'm going to click on Lesson Planner. So as you can see, I have a lot of sections that I teach. So I can click on one and click on another and deselect it. So by clicking on any sections here, I can choose what I want to display. So I'm going to click off and only show, let's say, 2. So I want to start planning for next week, so I can go into the calendar for next week. And my options are, as I said, by day, by week, or by month. So right here, I have the ability to schedule materials. When I click on this, it's going to give me 3 options. It's going to say, do you want to pull it from the materials you have saved? So it's going to list all the materials that I have saved, and these are those 2 curriculum maps that I created. If I have any lesson plans, I can look at that, and I think I do. It was a different grade, I believe. So let me select all here and press search, and there's my lesson plan. So when I hover over any material I see, I get the 4-pointed arrow, and all I need to do is just drag and drop it. Now, depending on if my material has a duration in it, so this one has 1 day, so it'll only go in for 1 day. But if I had something that lasted, let's say, 6 days, then it would actually populate for 6 days. But if I wanted to extend it, I hover over the name of the resource and get really close to the edge, and you're going to see a 2-pointed arrow where I can actually drag it all the way across as long as I want to teach it. So if I am teaching the same instructional unit or curriculum throughout all of my courses, I can just drag and drop it to start where I want it to. Now, anytime you see materials, you can hover over it, and you'll also get a little trash can. So if you want to go ahead and just click on the trash can, it will remove it straight from your calendar. Now, as I hover over any day, you're going to see that I have a pencil with a little piece of paper, a paper clip, and if I have something scheduled, I'm going to see what we have here is our standards chart. So as you can see on this one that has no resource scheduled, I don't have the standards chart. But if we click on the little piece of paper, I can mention that I'm going to do maybe just a lesson on, reading section 5, but I don't want to have a full lesson plan on it, and I can go ahead and save that, and when I want to see the note, I can click on it here. I can minimize it, and then you'll see that I have one note there. Maybe I have an attachment, and I want to choose the files that I want to add. Again, maybe I'm not doing a full-blown lesson plan, but I have some notes or some materials that I want to share with the class, so I can choose the files and then add them. I can just select any resource here and add it, and then it's there. And to access it, I click on it, and I can access it right from there. If I want to delete it, I can delete it right off of it. So now, as I mentioned, if you have something scheduled and it has standards linked in it, when you click on it, it's going to show you if there are standards, the standards and how your students are doing. I'm going to now schedule a lesson from instructional materials so that you can see a different way to schedule. So I'm going to go to Classrooms, Instructional Materials. I'm going to go to My Materials, and notice that there's my lesson plan. I can go ahead and schedule it, and what's going to pop up are all the different sections that I teach. So if I say I want to look at functional math for 7, I'm going to look at next week, and I'm going to do it on the 3rd. All I need to do is either save and go to the planner or save and close. And now it's actually scheduled. And when I go to my Classroom's lesson planner and I look at next week and remove this little X, I will see that my using conversions lesson plan is scheduled. So there's more than one way to schedule materials on your lesson planner. So now I'll look and see if I have any standards or any test results on this. So when I select this, as you can see, this one does have standards on it, but I haven't assessed this standard, so it's going to say 0% correct and there's no item. But as you start using the system a little bit more, you then can see how your students are doing. So let's see some other ways to schedule. So if I click on the Schedule Materials here, I did it from my materials. I can search for any available materials, not just what I've saved. So if there's curriculum for, let's say, 6th grade math here, I can go ahead, this is already scheduled, but I can click on it, see what materials are in it. I can expand it. And if I wanted to, I can drag and drop and maybe look at a different section. Let me click on a different section here. And since this says it's already scheduled, I can drag and drop it from a different area. Let's click on Math 7 here and just drag and drop it there. And again, if I want to make it longer, I just grab the end of it. The other things you can schedule is right here from the materials bank, and this shows you everything in our search. So there's lots of lessons. Anything that we search in instructional materials can be searched right from here. I can create materials, which is what we'll be doing at the Part 2 webinar. And then I can actually schedule standards coverage. So if I want to say I'm looking for 7th grade math, I can find the standard I want to teach and just drag and drop that in. I'm going to say Math 7.1, use the handout conversion table. So you can just include information. So even though you might not be doing a full lesson, you now have your, your standards coverage listed that you will be teaching it there. You can also create an event. So if you have a meeting every week, I can go ahead and drag that down to the day, and I can say it's in the library. I can't type today. And if there's a recurrence, I can say it's weekly from February 1st all the way to June 1st. Do I want it to do every day or just Mondays? So I deselect this, I go ahead and click on the plus sign, and now when I look at my next week, I see that my meeting is every week for that section. Now, if I wanted to drag and drop that meeting for every section that I teach, I can just drag and drop. So you can see here, you can schedule a variety of things, but again, be wary that an administrator can view your calendar so they can see what you have scheduled on your calendar. I mentioned you can also PDF the materials. You can click on PDF, or you can always print the screen straight from here. So at this point, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. I'm going to let you pause the recording, and when you are ready and go in and play with the lesson planner, drag and drop to your sections, and when you're ready to resume the recording, just click on pause again. So hopefully you've been able to play around with accessing instructional materials and the lesson planner, and you'll get kind of your feet wet. And what I'd like to do is talk about what we're going to be doing in the next webinar, and then show you where the instructional materials are. The supporting materials are. So in the next webinar, we're actually going to go into instructional materials, but we're going to be creating lesson plans and resources. So if you attend that webinar, you'll want to have an idea of some lesson plans and resources you'll want to create. Now, we mentioned that anywhere in the application you can click on the question mark to get help, or you can always go to the Educator Development and you can click on PD Search, and in this PD Search, all of our quick reference cards are in the resource section. So when I click on resources, I can filter it just by SchoolNet, or I can even just type in the word classrooms, and as you can see, here are all the different resources. So there's locating instructional materials, using the lesson planner, which are the two that we focused on today. So you can get a lot of supporting materials to help you. So I want to thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you at our next webinar, which is going to be creating resources and lesson plans.